like to welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of the Council. This Council meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I've had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the Chamber, please be aware that we're all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you wish to speak. Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you're not talking. May I remind members that as per the statute made under Section 4 of the Local Government of Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Dominique, have we any apologies, please?
I've had apologies from Councillors Catherine Bonera, Joanne Gordon and Mandy Owen.
Are there any further apologies from the floor? Thank you for that. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Delith Harris, Monitoring Officer and Assistant Chief Legal Officer, have you any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. With regard to agenda item number 11, which relates to the polling district and polling place review, the community councils have been consulted in relation to the review. Therefore, the following members have interests as they are members of the various community councils, and I would ask that members agree their interests when their name is read out. So the following are members of Pontypool Community Council: Councillor Nick Byrne, yeah. Councillor Linda Clarkson,
correct.
Okay. Oh, Councillor John Hawler,
Yes.
Councillor Gaynor James,
Yes.
Councillor John James,
Yes.
Councillor Sue Molson,
Yes.
Councillor Caroline Price,
Yes.
Councillor Nicholas Simons,
Yes.
Councillor Rosemary Matthews.
Yes.
And the following are members of Cumbraen Community Council: Councillor Dave Thomas,
Yes.
Councillor Stuart Ashley,
Yes.
Councillor Peter Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Sue Morgan,
Yes.
and then there are 2 members who are members of Henley's Community Council: Councillor Ron Burnett,
Yeah.
Councillor Colette Thomas. Councillor David Williams is a member of Cross Keelog and Llanrafon Community Council.
Yes.
And Councillor Liam Cole is a member of Glenavon Town Council.
Yes.
Thank you, members. With regard to agenda item number, with regard number 9, which relates to the council tax reduction scheme, Councillor Stephen Evans and Councillor Rose Seaburn have a personal interest, as either they or a close personal associate is affected by the scheme. So if I could ask both members to confirm those interests.
Stephen?
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
And I agree.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'm not aware of any other interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Delith. Takes us to agenda item 4, the confirmation of the council minutes of the 5th of the 12th, 2023, starting on page 5. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. They're taken as approved, thank you. Agenda item 5, update on actions. Members, the update on what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 33 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? No? Can I ask members whether they agree to note the update on the actions, please? Thank you. Members, they noted. Agenda item 6, the receipt of petitions. There are no petitions, so we'll move on to agenda item 7, public question time. There are no public questions, so we'll move on to agenda item 8, the announcements from the Leader or the Chief Executive. Leader, do you have your announcements, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member, and can I thank you for the minute of silence for former Councillor Lewis Jones, to pay our respects to him this morning. Secondly, the welfare and well-being and security, indeed, of all members is a very important issue to me. I know you all do a very hard job, you all work very hard, and you're all entitled to the respect and protection for the job that you do in public. And I know that's especially prevalent in the social media age, where sometimes the work we do can put us into contact with some people who don't want to behave respectfully back towards us. If you do have any concerns, I've always got an open door for you to come in and speak with me. I am taking up issues with the police and with officers to make sure that all members are entitled to go about their business as public representatives, whichever ward you represent and whichever party you represent, because that's an important issue to me. Next, I would like to mention some good news around the latest Eston monitoring visit. We've had a very strong feedback letter which points out the improvements that have been made in accountability, in securing improvements for schools, in the relationships with schools, and the vision for school improvement, as well as the progress that we're making on attendance. If I can hand over to Richard as the portfolio holder to give some more information, please.
Thanks, Leader. The monitoring visit ended last Wednesday with the confirmation from Eston of their findings, and we received the letter yesterday. It was too late to go on the agenda, so Anthony kindly agreed to do it in his notices. We will send the letter out for all members. It is a public document. I want to share just one paragraph. The Director of Education has secured and shared a clear vision for school and service improvement. The vision is underpinned by high expectations and increased levels of accountability. This has helped to define the roles and responsibilities of officers, schools, ES in securing better outcomes for pupils. This was looking at recommendation 1, which was to improve outcomes for learners, particularly in secondary schools. As Anthony said, it was very positive. Eston have picked up on the culture of trust and openness and how it is a partnership. And when I say partnership, I include Eston in that. I think I said at the meeting last week, which was probably the wrong time before they'd written the letter, Eston was always seen as the bogeyman when they come into these events. But it's really positive how they've interacted with us in the time and have been constructive and helpful. Obviously, it's caveated with they are fresh policies going in, and to demonstrate real improvement will take time. There's no measure at the moment where we are, but the signs of improvement are clearly there. As Eston says, one of the outcomes they do highlight is attendance. You will be aware from signs outside your schools of the NEMO Not In, Miss Out scheme. We have attendance policies in, we are pushing those, and we would like them ever higher. The report also mentions the difference from when they inspected us to now. They've inspected our primaries, which a number of primaries which have all had glowing reports, and 2 of the secondary schools were in special measures. One's come out and it notes that one's still in. It's no surprise to anybody in this room that it's Cwmbran High. I'm not going to hide behind the fact that they didn't name the school. Progress is being made in Cwmbran High. The monitoring visit there recently notes there's progress. There is still a long way to go. But one of the optimistic matters at Cwmbran High is there's now full governing body. I'd like to thank the IEB. Lyndon's in the room. He was one of the members of the IEB. I'd like to thank him for his service during the period. But now the school is, as well as the head teacher, being run by a full governing body, which I think is a positive sign. And I'm aware that governors have been allocated various fields within the school to note progress. So I hope in the not too distant future, and certainly before Christmas, I can come back with some better outcomes on that. But thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Richard. I'd like to thank you and officers for their lead on this, and the improved openness and culture is very much welcomed by us as members. I'd also like to thank scrutiny members on education for the work they've played in transforming that relationship. Also, of course, staff in education and in our schools. We recognise there's more work to do, but I think that this report is encouraging signs that we're on the right track. Next, I'd like to introduce the head boy and the deputy head girl of Abersucken School, who have been very active within their community, and I believe are going to come down and talk a little bit about their roles. And then we've got one more item after that, if that's okay, presiding member. So welcome to Abigail and Boyd, I believe.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Boyd Painter and I'm the head boy at Abersucken School, a role that I am proud and privileged to be in. Throughout my education experience, I have tried to achieve many things such as personal and academic successes. I have also put myself into roles that have meant that I could strive for the benefit of others. Roles such as being a member of the school council, a year group representative and head boy have all encouraged me to work hard, strive for success and boost my overall confidence. However, this could not have been done alone. Without the help of my family, teachers and peers, I would not be in the position I am today. I would like to thank Councillors Janet Jones and Nick Corler for your encouragement and words of advice. In addition to that, I would also like to thank Anthony Hunt for inviting myself and Abby to speak at this meeting today. Throughout my time as head boy, I've been out in the community, helping out in my school and giving my peers a chance to have their voice heard. Within the community, I've been honoured to speak at the Remembrance Day service in Blenavon, hand out gift hampers to well-deserving members of our community for their volunteering work and help out in my school during events such as open evenings and concerts. Alongside this, I've been privileged to volunteer at Blenavon Male Voice Choir's annual Christmas concert for the past 2 years. When my time as head boy ends and I leave Abersucken School, I do not intend on stopping any community work. I have been in contact with Torfaen MP Nick Thomas-Symonds and Lord Paul Murphy to ask for advice on a future career in politics, which they have kindly given to me and encouraged me, as it is in my intention to one day serve my community in the best way I can. Thank you for listening.
I'd like to thank you for that, Boyd. It's certainly a great example of involvement in your community and in the school, and thank you for everything you do. And good luck in your future studies. Anything else you'd like to mention to us today? I know we're going to do something on Holocaust Memorial now, but just thank you for coming in today. And you're always welcome in this building to learn more about local representation. It's good that you've spoken to Nick about national representation as well. This week, this Saturday, in fact, is Holocaust Memorial Day. The day that's held every year to recognise the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp on the 27th of January. We've been holding some assemblies across Torfaen in different schools to commemorate that. But I know you've got a poem to read out to remember the Holocaust, so if you'd like to do that, then that'd be very welcome.
First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
Well, I thank you both for coming in and for that very poignant poem. I think the work we're doing in our schools to make sure that the Holocaust is remembered is very important, especially as next year marks the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And of course, there are fewer and fewer survivors of those camps with us anymore. So I think it's important that we both commemorate and pay respect and tribute to their memories, and also that we continue to make sure that we remember the things that led to the Holocaust, and that those kind of atrocities and don't keep being repeated in the future. So thank you to Abigail and to Boyd for coming in to play a part in that this morning. And that's the end of my announcements. Thanks, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you both for joining us this morning. Chief Executive, do you have anything to report, please?
Nothing to add, thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 9, which is the Council Tax Reduction Scheme, which starts on page 35 of your agenda. Nigel Arelis, Deputy Chief Executive, could you deliver your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'll be very brief. This is a standard report. It's simply a piece of governance we have to go through. The scheme is not materially changed from the scheme that's currently in operation, but as a council, we're required to approve it before the end of January in the year preceding. Wales benefits from a 100% CTRS scheme, and that is still in place. The details are there in the report, and as I say, it's largely unchanged from the scheme that's been in operation since 2013. Thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you, Nigel. Anybody wishing to speak on this? Thank you. The recommendations start on page 38 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Are there any members against the recommendations? Are there any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 10, the annual report to Council on effectiveness of social services by the Strategic Director, Children and Family Services, as the Statutory Director of Social Services. This report starts on page 57. Jason O'Brien, Strategic Director, Children and Family Services, could you deliver this report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Good morning, members. Under the requirements of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act and within the statutory functions of the Director of Social Services, we are required to prepare reports that reflect on social care activity and performance for the preceding year. The report as presented today reflects performance for the financial year 22-23. This is the 6th report submitted within this framework, the 2nd completed by myself, and the 1st which reflects activity of myself in situ as Statutory Director for Social Services. The report provides a retrospective review of activity within 22-23, and whilst I do not intend to highlight any particular areas within the report, I would offer that social care services within the local authority continue to be responsive to demands placed on all aspects of service provision, and despite being post-pandemic, on occasions the volume of and complexity associated with demand has continued. We've continued to be effective in delivering core services and have adhered to statutory functions. This has often required us to be innovative and responsive to changing needs against a continued background of financial pressures. We've continued to provide services that support, safeguard and protect the vulnerable across the entire age range, and have increasingly focused on the strengths of individuals and communities. The report intentionally makes more than a cursory reference to Torfaen County Council's county plan, and I would suggest that whilst the compilation of this report fulfils a statutory function, the county plan provides a more contemporary analysis of information on performance and presents as a live and active document in terms of development and direction of travel for the respective service areas within the council. It will come as little surprise to members that the dominant activities for us within the Directorate continues to focus on demand management, both in the sense of preventing the need for statutory services and de-escalating services and packages of care where appropriate in order to enable individuals within all parts of the service area to maintain levels of independence and ensure that our resources are targeted effectively. Members will see the level of activity within the service areas as highlighted within the report, and the only 2 areas of specific activity I would reference are the ability to manage and reduce the levels of unbroken hours of domiciliary care packages against a backdrop of continued pressures within the health system and peaks of demand during, particularly, for example, within the winter pressures, and the continued safe reduction of the children looked after population, which has been significant and continues to reduce in line with our county plan aspirations. Going forward, the financial situation will continue to be challenging, and we recognise that we need to continue to develop services to be efficient and effective by engaging across all service areas with the local authority, developing community resilience, monopolising on strengths and developing and building on existing partnership. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Jason. Any members wishing to speak? No? The recommendations are on, beg your pardon, Dave Williams, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Just to thank Jason for the report. Under health, we've done a lot of scrutiny, and under difficult and economic circumstances, we're doing a really good job. So thank you, Jason, and your team.
Thank you, Councillor Janet Jones. Councillor David Williams, please.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member, and thank you, Jason. It was really, a positive report, obviously, but I just really wanted to ask what you were most pleased with and why in this your first full year, as it were, reporting.
I think from quite a selfish point of view, the one thing I continue to be pleased with is our reduction of our looked after children population. It has been significant. We've gone from a peak of 474 down to, as at today, 338. We have an aspiration within our county plan to reduce our looked after population by 15% each year. And we appear to be well on target for that for this coming year. That's an area I'm particularly proud of. Of course, it'd be remiss of me not to mention within adult social care as well. And I think, as I've highlighted within the report, our ability to, I guess, almost back against the trend in terms of how we're delivering our domiciliary care packages, and the ability to respond to continued demand and need there. And like I say, almost against a trend across the region.
Thank you, Jason. Leader.
Thank you, Jason, for that report. It's very often said in joking terms in our circles how social services departments can bankrupt any council. So I'd like to thank you for not doing that and not taking that approach. What do you think the best things we can do for you as a councillor would be my first question, to make the job of your area easier or more sustainable? And secondly, how do you think we can continue to invest in sort of early intervention and prevention measures and measures in our communities to stop that acute demand building up and making things unsustainable?
Thank you, Leader. I think you've answered the first question for me by asking the second question, because that's what I was going to reference in terms of that build-up and that focus upon early intervention and prevention, and how that will reduce demand within the service area and enable us to target resources more effectively for those at the greatest level of need. So, yes, for me as a councillor, it's that focus upon early intervention and prevention, so that we can head services off at the pass. We can prevent individuals from coming into the service and also almost being sucked into a statutory service, where we will know that if we are investing in preventative activities, we will enable those individuals to stay out of the service and create great levels of independence for them. So that for me is, I guess, the answer to the first question. And I think in terms of the second question around how we can focus on and increase our levels of early intervention and prevention, again, I would lean back heavily on the county plan, because I think the county plan is enabling us to start to do that. I think some of the changes that we've had in the directorates within the last 12 months are enablers for developing early intervention and preventative activities, and the alignment, I think, particularly between adults and communities, and that whole communities framework that we're developing within the council, it is the crucial bit of developing our early intervention and prevention.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Well, I said that's good news. Oh, thank you, Alan. Apologies for that. Can I say it's good news on the numbers of looked after children coming down? We've had them up there for quite a while, so good. Alan Slade.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. On page 86 of the report, there's an explanation as to the overspend within children's services, and it says it relates to the increased pressure in the system as a result of the Welsh Government's limited agenda on removing profit from the care of children looked after. And obviously you said gone on to say that some operators have moved their business from Wales. And I was just wondering, apart from the increase in cost, has there been a sort of knock-on effect where children are no longer being cared for within the local area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the eliminated gender is having an impact at the present time on our residential cohort. So those children placed in residential provision, the vast majority of which are already placed out of area. Now, we know as a council we don't have any currently any in-house provision, any of our own stock of residential provision, which we're looking to develop into this financial year. So we haven't seen a shift of children in residential being moved out of county because, unfortunately, they were already out of county. But our drive going forward is to, as best we can, as much we can, to bring those children back into our fold, really. There will always be, or not always be, but there will on some occasions be the need for children, of course, to be placed out of the local authority area, depending upon some of the safeguarding risks that they may present. But it's clearly our drive to be bringing children back in. What I would add to that, in terms of our foster carers, so we have a significantly high proportion of in-house foster carers within Torfaen, the highest within Wales, and I think probably the highest in the UK in comparison to independent providers. And of course, the vast majority of those reside within Torfaen. So those children we have within foster carers, within our own foster carers, on the whole, generally reside within Torfaen.
Thank you.
Okay. No further questions. The recommendations are on page 58. The recommendation is to note and approve the content of the report attached as Appendix 1. All in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Takes us to agenda item 11, which is the polling district and polling station review, which starts on page 95 of your agenda. Caroline Jennifer Jones, Elections Manager, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member, and good morning, members, and apologies for not being with you in the Civic Centre today. As you will be aware, we have a statutory duty to keep our polling districts, places and stations under review, and to have such recently carried out a full review and consultation. We visited each of our existing stations with volunteers from the local accessibility group, for which I would like to extend my thanks. From the results of this and the online consultation have resulted in a few recommendations for change, which are listed in 4.3 of your report. These are based on buildings either no longer being available or no longer fit for purpose. We've also combined several polling districts they represent the same community area and use the same polling place. This will reduce the number of polling staff required for future elections. Should members agree to the proposed, then we will inform all electors who are affected by the changes and republish the electoral register on the new polling districts from the 1st of February. And then the new polling districts will come into force from the May election. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline, and we really appreciate you coming online, being as ill as you are.
Thank you.
So after this, get back to bed and drink lots of fluid. So thank you very much. Members, any questions on this report? No? The recommendations are on page 101. Can I ask members if they agree with the recommendations? Anybody against the recommendations? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
That takes us to agenda item 12, motions on notice. There are no motions on notice, so we'll move on to agenda item 13, which is the members' question time. There are 2 questions today. I'm referring to the sheet, but I've lost it. So it's Councillor Carl Gordon with both questions. So if you'd like to take one after the other, Carl, that would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Following on for the social services report, these questions are sort of linked, really. Could the executive member for children's, families and education provide statistics in terms of percentages of looked after children who received their various immunisations at the relevant times with their peers?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Gordon. As the end of December 23, 85% of children looked after were up to date with the immunisations. That's 301 children out of the 354 on register at the time. The majority, 40 young people of the 53 not up to date, are young people over the age of 16, and they have their consent and their wishes as young people to bear in mind. A further 9 children whose immunisations are not up to date are accommodated under Section 76 voluntary care, and as a result their parents have the overriding decision-making powers. So that covers the whole 354 December.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Gordon.
Yes, thank you. I'm grateful for the answer. I'll move on to question 2. In respect of looked after children across the borough, would it be possible to outline the procedure used to facilitate sign-off of authorisation for children to receive all the relevant childhood vaccinations? Anecdotally, I've been informed by a resident that gaining permission from social services can be less than seamless. Also, are we confident that the procedures we have in place are sufficiently robust and that we have specific staff to monitor and ensure that looked after children are not missing important immunisations because consent has not been completed? Thank you.
Again, thank you for the question, Councillor Gordon. Consent for immunisations for children looked after, subject of an interim care order, is provided at group manager level. When children are accommodated on a voluntary basis, consent is provided by the parent. Some immunisation consent forms require an electronic signature and others are submitted as online forms. There can be a delay in consent forms being submitted for authorisation, and some consent forms require more information in relation to the child than others. Any delay is monitored and actioned suitably. Foster carers do not have delegated authority to provide consent on behalf of the local authority. All children looked after have a health assessment within 20 working days of becoming looked after, and every 6 months thereafter for children under 5, and every 12 months thereafter for children and young people aged over 5. The allocated social worker is required to confirm, a note's just popped up on my screen covering my words, to confirm that a child's immunisation are up to date, and if not, why not, as part of every child looked after review, chaired by an independent review officer, which provides an effective quality assurance process. There is also a looked after children's panel. It meets this afternoon under the chair of Councillor Colette Thomas. I know from previous time on that panel, and I'm back on the panel, we do have reports on performance as it's headed, and medical issues such as dentistry and this do come under that, but in consultation with the chair, I would ensure that this is regularly reviewed by that panel, so your constituent, if there are things that slip through the net, they are picked up by the panel as well as the independent reviewing officer. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Yeah, there's no supplementary. Thank you for the comprehensive response, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Before I go on to the date and time of the next meeting, we do have a Holocaust video that we would like to show.
Just to introduce the video, as part of our efforts to recognise Holocaust Memorial Day, and thank you very much to Abigail and Boyd for reading out the poem before the meeting. We've got a short video to play for members. 2 years ago, Holocaust survivor Harry Spiro and his daughter Tracy Moses spoke to our community cohesion team and executive members about their experiences during World War II. Their moving and inspirational talk has now been turned into a Values Voices podcast to mark Holocaust Memorial Day this Sunday. Harry was 10 years old when the Nazis invaded Poland. He and his family were forced to live in a ghetto before he was taken to a concentration camp. He would go on to survive 4 camps, as well as the infamous Death March. Conditions in the camps were truly inhumane, as Tracy will explain in the following clip. Tragically, Harry was the only member of his entire family to survive. After the war, he and hundreds of other young boys and girls were brought to the UK to recover from the Nazi atrocities. Many went on to settle in the UK, including Harry, who became a tailor and had a family of his own. Despite the horrors he witnessed, Harry has refused to live with hate. We'll now hear a clip from Tracy, but if you want to hear Harry's inspirational story in full, search for the Valley's Voices podcast on Spotify, on Apple iTunes, or on the council website.
Conditions in Buchenwald were bad. Life spread very quickly, and again there was very little food, but as Dad said, at least he personally had no heavy work to do. They would sleep in bunk beds 4 levels high, and Dad always used to say it was important to get the top bunk, as people would be too exhausted or too ill to get out of bed in the night, so they would just urinate, vomit, or worse where they were. As you can see, there are no mattresses or anything, there are no bedding, they just slept on wooden slats, so everything would drip through to those below, which really wasn't pleasant. But after about 2 weeks, Dad was then sent to another camp called Rensdorf. Dad always says that this was the worst camp he was ever in. The work here was very hard and the food rations, unbelievably, even less than before. When they arrived, they were given a potato each. So it wasn't clean like the ones we have from supermarkets today. It was muddy, just dug up from the earth. Dad told us that they peeled the potato and dropped the dirty peelings on the muddy floor. Suddenly, the other inmates scrambled on the ground to the ground to eat these dirty scraps. He couldn't believe it that people could be that starving. But he also said he wasn't there for long before he was doing the same. Every morning in the washroom, there would be dead bodies on the floor. People just had no more energy to live. Sometimes they died and not eaten their bread rations, and Dad would take the bread to eat. I remember him saying how awful it was that they were by now all so dehumanised that they felt nothing at the sight of a dead body, but just how he felt it was his lucky day if he managed to get some extra bread. Mum and Dad took a conscious decision to not live with hate. This must have been incredibly hard for him, but he always chooses love, life and laughter over bitterness. Dad's greatest joy is the knowledge that his children don't live with hate, and we've passed this on to our children too, so we can all live happy, normal lives. As he says, if you live with hate, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
That's the end of the video, Leader. Madam Presiding Member.
Could I just remind members that Holocaust Memorial Day is January the 27th, but throughout the month there are lots of events taking place, and I urge you to attend one of them. It's quite a moving situation, so thank you for that. Thank you for that, Leader. That takes us to the date and time of the next meeting, and for your information, members, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, at 10 a.m. Thank you, members, for attending the meeting this morning. I now close the meeting.